My name is Adrian Baschnonga. I'm lead analyst for EY in Global Telecommunications, and today I'm going to be talking about the challenges facing operators as customer experience becomes an ever more important differentiator. Good morning, everybody. Really good to be here. Thanks very much to European Communications for inviting me. What I'm going to do this morning is really sort of talk through very much the customer perspective on what they feel are their own pain points, and that's very much built on some of the surveys that we do at EY, where we really drill down into what customers want, what they need, what they're saying, what they're complaining about, both in the mobile and fixed line segments. And again, a bit of sort of top and tailing about, where we are at the industry at the moment. Obviously, we're a few weeks after Barcelona, quite a lot of optimism there. Looking at some of the results of the survey, we see that operators do believe they are providing a more differentiated experience. Whether that's true or not, I guess time will tell. So where are we at the moment in terms of the telco landscape? Well, certainly, pressure is rising on operators. Yes, there's a lot of M&A going on at the moment. There's a lot of optimism in the sector. You could argue we're in a second TMT bubble. But when we look at the pressures on operators themselves, arguably they are mounting. So on the left there, I've tried isolating a few of the different external factors facing operators. Regulatory uncertainties persist. Certainly there's threat to core revenues in terms of mobile termination, roaming rate reductions. Certainly uncertain attitudes to consolidation as well. There's a lot of promise there about more rational market structures. Will that really play out? Again, maybe some alternatives in terms of things like network sharing could help, but still a bit of a question mark there. And even net neutrality, we've seen some pronouncements coming from the States earlier this year. What's that going to look like? Is there going to be the ability to charge according to quality of service in years to come? How will that have ramifications for customer experience accordingly? So some big question marks there. In terms of the new technology cycles, they're shortening. We're seeing the digitization of everything. We're seeing new device form factors, wearables very big this year. At Mobile World Congress, a lot of talk around network virtualization. That's going to become more important in an environment where fixed and mobile networks live side by side, but ultimately still high capital intensity. And if you look at sort of forecasts of that, remaining pretty high over the next few years. But consumers are changing more rapidly than ever. They're empowered multitaskers, very device-centric, device-driven mindset. And interestingly, and this was a big theme again in Barcelona, it's sort of all-time low levels of trust in TMT providers. An interesting survey from Orange launched a month ago that showed that actually customer trust in social networks, in operators, in device manufacturers, in financial institutions, all coming down in a sort of post-Snowden environment. And we're still seeing a lot of disruptive competition. So, what does this mean for operators? On the right, from a survey last year, what are your organization's strategic priorities? Efficiencies, cost control, and best practice, and very much reflected in the Eurocom survey this year, that although we do hear about things like big data, digital services development, yes, they are priorities, but actually this whole issue of efficiency and cost control, extremely important. So in terms of customer behaviours, and again, a bit of a sort of, 30,000-foot view, what are we seeing? Well, there's going to be this huge explosion in devices, not only amongst human beings, but, within machines. We're seeing SIM cards, embedded connectivity, a lot of growth forecasts there. 217 new users connect to the mobile web every minute, apparently, and it takes 18 months for the world's digital data to double. And if we look at some of the top Twitter trends at MWC, Internet of Things, connected car, wearables, 5G, but privacy as well, a really big theme at the moment. And customers are certainly more empowered than ever. So tablet owners, greater propensity to conduct m-commerce compared to smartphone phone owners, for example. Device manufacturers starting to use customer suggestions as they actually build new products and services, crowdsourcing sites, etc., all playing an important role. But do people believe that advertising is credible? Perhaps not. And we're talking a lot these days about advertising-led business models, with this whole issue of trust kind of playing into that. So now I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about some of the studies that we've done that hopefully tie into this whole notion of customer experience and give a good view of what customers really think about their service providers and how they're responding to a lot of the new services offered by operators. So I'm going to be referencing two studies here, both of which published by EY in the last year. The first is called the Mobile Maze, and it's a survey of 6,000 mobile consumers in 12 markets worldwide, and really centering in on mobile data services. So what do end users, consumers think of the mobile data services? Taking, again, quite a sort of holistic view, both of services offered by operators and OTT-led services as well, but covering consumers in Australia, Brazil, China, the Czech Republic, Greece, India, Italy, Netherlands, Russia, Sweden, UK, US, so quite a wide spread of responses geographically there. And it's all about, identifying take-up and adoption of mobile data services. And we identify the various drivers and inhibitors for adoption, but also usage accelerants that can turn occasional users into regular users. Secondly, we published recently a study in the UK called the Bundle Jungle, which is all about how consumers are taking up multiple services from single providers in the residential market. So we're looking at sort of double, triple play, quadruple play, again, 2,500 broadband households in the UK. Perhaps a good time to do this kind of study, given BT's investment in sport, for example, the acquisition of Virgin Media, the prospective IPO of EE. So it's certainly a very lively time in UK fixed line at present. So what did we find? Well, this is looking at the Mobile Maze survey, and we found that lack of relevance and poor network quality are the top take-up inhibitors for new mobile services. So we looked at a number of services, right from OTT messaging to mobile video, mobile payments, for example. Perhaps worth drilling into mobile video, because that is seen as a differential service offered by 4G, seen as something cutting edge that operators can differentiate by offering. So mobile video take-up inhibitors, reasons for not taking up mobile video service after a trial. Yes, service not relevant to me. This whole issue of relevance, pretty key. But also 25% saying service was not always available due to poor mobile signal strength. We've had recently some surveys in the UK looking at the strength of 4G networks. Clearly customers are a bit concerned about the quality of their mobile signals. Service was too expensive, down in third. Perhaps a slightly counterintuitive response as we move to a world of tiered mobile data. You might expect cost considerations to be riding high, but actually number 3 there. And again, we ask these questions in different ways, but reasons for stopping using mobile video services. Yes, relevance or lack of comes out top. Again, number 2, service was not always available due to poor mobile signal strength. And then flipping that question on its head, what would make you take up mobile video sooner? Yes, free trial, perhaps unsurprisingly at number 1, but reasons 2 and 3, improvements in mobile signal strength and Wi-Fi access. So this whole issue of network quality, even though we're talking about the customer experience, clearly a big component of that. And actually, if we look at some of the responses which we can cut by urban and rural users, we actually found that urban users were complaining more often, suggesting that actually network congestion could be more of an issue than actual coverage in more sparsely populated areas. One of the biggest messages coming from this mobile study was actually about the whole question of understanding mobile data tariffs. And here we ask the question, how well do you understand mobile data tariffs offered by your mobile operator? And here you can see you've got the sort of quite effectively, very effectively, in the different shades of grey there. And in the dark grey, the yellow and the blue is the not very effectively, not at all effectively, and don't know. And you can see that actually a substantial proportion of end users don't really understand their mobile data tariffs. Quite interestingly, that's most pronounced in the US, where 32% don't even know whether they do understand them or not. Very interesting given that the US was first to migrate to LTE, first to introduce tiered pricing, family plans, so a lot of tariff plan innovation in that market, and actually a lot of people just don't feel that they understand their tariffs. Quite an elemental concern, you could argue. What makes this response all the more interesting is that it's actually correlated to the receptivity to try new services. So if you feel that you don't understand your data tariff, you're far less likely to try out various new services that operators offer you. Conversely, if you do feel that you understand your tariffs, you're much more receptive to new services. Again, this whole issue around how operators communicate new service propositions. Better understanding of service benefits and practical guidance can drive take-up. So here we asked a question of potential users of services like mobile payments, like mobile video, like instant messaging, for example. These are the users here, or percentage of potential users, that state a better understanding of service benefits and installation will make them try these services sooner. And you can see it across all the different service categories that we inquired about. Interestingly enough here, comes in extremely strongly for mobile payment. There's been a lot said about mobile payment, sort of adoption rates lagging, question marks around security. But people actually just don't feel comfortable trying these services. We've got an increasing proportion of phones that have NFC capability inbuilt. But does that translate into someone walking into a store and waving their phone in front of a retail point of sale? Not really. So here actually we find out that greater understanding of service benefits in yellow, more details of how to use and install service ranks as an important take-up driver for those who say that they would try these services. Again, comes out quite strongly for instant messaging as well. So this whole issue of the operators maybe replicating OTT services, again, more guidance there about how to use some of these services could aid take-up. This whole issue around personalised service offerings, I know that's the sort of sub-theme of today's discussion, but customers, again, playing it back to this whole issue of pricing and tariffs and how well and effectively these are communicated to end users. People want more flexible tariffs and payment options. So I guess this creates a bit of an ambivalent scenario. People don't understand pricing. They find it very complex. They don't find it intuitive to understand pricing, particularly as you move away from all-you-can-eat models. But they actually want more flexibility. They want more choice. And that arguably creates a big challenge for operators there. So on the left here, we've got the percentage of those respondents considering trying services who state that more choice of tariff options will make them try these services sooner. And again, increased flexibility of payment options in yellow, more choice of tariff options in grey. Again, ranking pretty high for these potential users of these different types of mobile data services. Again, in the world of apps, we can see a big diffusion there in terms of what customers are saying about how they want to pay for apps. Whether it's a free trial of limited content, an option of payment for full version, free but with in-app adverts in the dark grey, in the light grey, one-off payment with relative discount to purchasing after a free trial, payment taken out of mobile credit added to monthly bill in the light grey, and the blues that don't know there. So again, a very wide range of responses. How do operators cater for this world of very diffuse demands on the part of the end user? So now switching to the UK fixed line market, the residential market. This is the second of the two surveys I said I'd be talking about, called the Bundle Jungle, which is all about take-up of multi-play services. So enhancing the customer experience here is seen as pretty vital. Why is that? Because actually, when we look at take-up of bundle packages in the UK, and 82% of UK households now take up some form of bundle package, the leading driver for take-up, it's all about convenience, it's all about having better customer service. We actually did a similar survey 7 years ago, And that was around about the time when Carphone was launching, TalkTalk was launching free broadband forever. And then the leading take-up driver was all about price savings, all about cost savings. Now that's actually number 3, and the leading take-up drivers are single point of contact for customer service and also convenience of getting a single bill. And so these are now the top 2 reasons for taking up a bundle. And again, the accepted thinking in terms of bundle service provision is all around sort of satisfaction, and you get more satisfied the more services that you're taking up from operators. And that, broadly speaking, that holds true. Yes, you've got the sort of very satisfied and quite satisfied, and if you look at sort of broadband telephony, triple play, and TV, the triple play offering, you can see, yes, satisfaction rates are high. Where are they underperforming though? Certainly underperforming in the sort of traditional double play of broadband and telephony, and actually underperforming those satisfaction rates of people who don't take any form of bundle. So certainly some work for operators to do there, because this kind of accepted thinking about greater satisfaction levels, the more services that you take from an operator, being a little bit challenged by some of the responses that we found. Elsewhere, some other interesting responses were that people weren't actually that keen as yet, certainly in the UK, on combinations of broadband and mobile. We've seen a lot of market developments in macro-stressed economies like Spain, for example, disruptive competition. In France, all around combinations of broadband and mobile. But if we look at the UK market, there wasn't actually much demand for that. It's certainly not offered by most service providers at present, but a lot of our responses dictated or suggested that actually it's something that people aren't too keen on at the moment, which I guess goes to show how local market factors very much dictate this kind of bundling opportunity. But one key output from this survey, which I guess sort of takes it up a notch from just simply asking people what kind of services they're taking, is all around the segmentation that we did of the UK broadband market on the back of it. And this really plays into this whole notion of service personalisation. You look at the UK broadband market, yes, there are going to be more affluent households than others. Yes, there are going to be people who like sport, who don't like sport. But actually, we found in this survey of 2,500 households that there were 6 pretty distinct groups of respondents, which operators would do well to pay attention to. So on the left, you've got what we would term, or what we have termed, digital devotees. These are affluent customers. They love technology. They're early adopters of smart TVs, early adopters of fibre. They want internet and content on the move. They're the most affluent segment, often young families. But crucially, they've got a high switching propensity. So they look like an operator's dream, all apart from the fact that they're extremely difficult to please. Secondly, you've got serious on sport, serious about sport. Again, these are customers who love sport and are willing to pay for it. They also have very strong fibre take-up, high use of catch-up TV, likely to be older families, and high satisfaction rates with broadband providers. So again, these are good customers. Once you've got them, they're less likely than the average response here to leave you as a provider. Having said that, in terms of our survey at large, only 1 in 4 households was either slightly or heavily willing to pay for a premium for sport content, which perhaps outlines something about the slightly minimal nature, arguably, of the pay TV opportunity in the UK. Thirdly, you've got smart switchers who regularly switch broadband providers, price sensitive and highly informed. Interestingly enough, another big output from this survey was that people don't feel that informed about the difference between different service providers. They don't feel that informed about differences between offers in the market. But this band of users here, highly informed, use price comparison websites, a lot of shopping around, very savvy when it comes to knowing the different offers in the market. But they're not heavy internet users, happy with their broadband providers, but always hunting for the best deal, so actually quite likely to switch. We've also got loyal bundlers, high bundle take-up, low switching intent, low interest in new technology, light users of online services. They quite like TV in the bundle, but basic options without sport. So these are triple play customers quite often, but don't want to pay a premium. And then you've got your anti-bundlers, people who sit outside the bundle. You've also got your functional users who have a very functional attitude to the internet. They only go online when they're actually looking for something. Now, what's interesting about these different segments in terms of customer experience? Well, what we've done is we've ranked their attitudes relative to each other across another number of metrics or sort of attributes that are built up through different survey questions. And we look at sort of areas like reliability of broadband more than speed of broadband connection. Crucially, willing to pay for good customer service. And very interesting there that the serious about sport customers, again, who look very good from an operator perspective, they take up fibre, they love watching sport, paying for sport, they're actually willing to pay more to get better customer service. And we've already seen that customer service is the number one driver of take-up currently of bundles. So if you want to take these customers, high satisfaction, a bit less likely to churn, pretty sticky customers, customer service, a big differentiator there. And again, these guys more interested in reliability of their broadband connection rather than speed. But again, if we look at some of these other attributes here in terms of understanding broadband speed and how it relates to usage, again, we can see that those customers serious about sport only rank number 3. So could do with more education about what they're consuming, some more support and guidance from operators on that score. And again, down towards the bottom there, you can also see, believe internet has redefined communications. Loyal bundlers scoring pretty highly there. Loyal bundlers very happy with their current broadband speed and satisfaction with broadband provider. But some stark contrasts between these different segments there, really suggesting that operators need to carefully consider these different views, even just amongst the UK residential base, for example, but very distinct attitudes. So what does this all mean for operators? Well, when you ask operators what they're going to invest in, we can see that there's a number of areas that are crying out for attention, whether it's in terms of CRM, single view of customer, service personalization, but also in terms of BSS as well. This whole issue around sort of coming up with a greater range of tariff options and pricing capabilities, really important in the mobile domain at the moment, but also in the OSS environment as well. So, what would we say about creating personalized services? Well, there needs to be attention paid to these distinct capabilities, both in terms of new service creation, the role that big data and analytics can play in that, but also crucially price plan optimization. One thing that's come out so strongly from the surveys that we've done is that if you don't understand your usage, you don't understand the way that you're billed, the way that your service is made available to you through different tariff options, you're far less likely to take on new services. That whole upsell scenario becomes a lot more challenging. So that brings me to a close in terms of these survey highlights and hopefully a bit of a wraparound as a result. So there we have it. I don't know if anyone's got any questions or, yeah, we'll save that till later.